The Cowboys' 3-0 start at home and their 6-game win streak snapped by the Denver Broncos in Week 9 of the NFL season. Now the Cowboys turn the page to Week 10, where they are welcoming in the Atlanta Falcons back at AT&T Stadium. And we are special edition here from the Star in Frisco alongside Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans as we look ahead to that Falcons matchup. But first we got to dissect what went wrong this past Sunday. 30-16 was the final score. The Broncos defeating the Cowboys for the 7th straight meeting. Cowboys now haven't won over Denver since 1995, and that will continue for a couple more years. But was this the most disappointing performance from a Mike McCarthy coach team in Dallas?
I believe so, and I believe mostly simply because of the fact that the expectation. These guys did not show up in any facet of the game. It doesn't matter from the quarterback position to the offensive line, the defensive line, secondary, special teams even. We had one big play on special teams, but there was no aspect where guys actually did what they were supposed to do, and that's because of how well they have played here in the past.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. It was just the dominating fashion in which we got beat. I mean, it was man-on-man, bone-on-bone football out there, and we just got punished. We got bullied out there. There was no facet of the game. There's 3 phases: offense, defense, special team, and no phase of this game that we dominate or have at least an upper hand in. You know, Denver came in here, put it to us. We got 2 scores late in the game, but really that game was a 30-0 victory, so I definitely believe this is one of the worst losses that the Cowboys have faced.
These 2 guys have said it all, and all I can say is this right here. You have another chance this week to try to rectify that right there, so here we go.
And this coaching staff's going to have the tough task of trying to figure things out like that, Nate, of trying to figure out what exactly went wrong. Well, we're going to do the same thing, starting with the offensive side of the football. What happened on offense that really allowed the Cowboys to never get off the ground?
I think it starts up front. Obviously, we talked a lot with the week upcoming in terms of the offensive line, in terms of Terrence Steele having to move back to the left side and Collins coming in and obviously reinstilling himself at the starting position at right tackle. They never got anything situated up front. So obviously, if you don't get the blocking, then you can't have a quarterback that's back there that's comfortable. Delivery was bad, mechanics were bad, so Dak looked like he was uneasy. And then obviously on the receiving side of things, we dropped the ball.
Yeah, hopefully this was just, a bump in the road. Dak showed a little bit of rust out there. He didn't have that chemistry or that timing with those receivers that we're used to seeing. But what concerned me a lot was the fact that this offensive line was getting beat down out there. It looked like Dak Prescott was running around for his life the entire game. So hopefully they get that shored up. But you got to give kudos to the Broncos. They came in here, executed the game plan perfectly, and they walked away with a W.
I just think like it's right here, you got a young Steele at the left tackle. That is a deal in itself. And then you try and insert Lyle back in. Your quarterback didn't look real comfortable back there. Your wide receivers weren't making plays for him like they normally do. So with all of that together, this is what you get. And everything is predicated on how our offense is ran.
It definitely is. And the defense certainly was put in a couple tough situations, back and forth, turnover on downs, and the lack of execution. So, Barry, I ask you, what went wrong on the defensive side of the football, allowing Denver to rush for 190 yards?
I would have to say, it was pretty concerning to me because we've seen this happen before. We've seen offenses be able to run the football up and down the field on us. We go back to New England, they did the same thing. We're able to keep Dalvin Cook in check a little bit, but this week, the Broncos, they went almost over 200 yards on us. So we've got to shore that defensive line, or else good teams will take advantage of that, and we don't want to see that later on this season.
You don't want to be a two-way go defense. You got to be dominant in one, and we've been normally stopping the run due to we have leads. We didn't have a lead this week, so they kept coming at us. Not only was the middle of our defense soft, our edges, we did not set the edges to force everything back inside, so that hurt us too. So as a team, defensively, they got to play better.
Now, there was one part of positivity on the defensive side, and that's Micah Parsons. For the 2nd straight week, he finished over double digits in tackles. He also added 2.5 sacks, Isaiah. What did you see from Parsons and how well the rookie first-rounder played?
I think he's adjusted. I think he really has a comfort level now in the NFL. I think he understands some of the schemes that are going on. He's starting to see things. And when you start getting comfortable, things start slowing down, especially as a rookie.
Yeah, this guy is affecting the game at an extremely high level. We see it linebacker, defensive end. And what I love about his game the most is how he arrives at the football. He arrives with bad intentions. And the best thing this coaching staff has done for his young career was take that green dot off his helmet and let him play ball. See ball, go get ball, and that's when he becomes a dog.
Letting a football player just go out and play some more football, and he's played exceptionally well over the last 2 weeks. He won NFC Defensive Player of the Week, and he was in the conversation again this week for what he did against Denver. He's been one of the best acquisitions from this front office from this past offseason. But when we come back, we hear from Stephen Jones and his thoughts on what exactly led to the Week 9 loss and how they fixed that going into Week 10.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by Ford. Built for Texas, built for you. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Salvation Army, doing the most good. And by AT&T. This segment is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Play the new Gym 7 scratch tickets. There's a Gym 7 scratch ticket for everyone, so play today.
Plenty of questions surrounding the Week 9 loss to the Denver Broncos, and luckily for Cowboys fans, you have Cowboys COO Stephen Jones, who can answer some of those questions as he sits down with Nick Eatman.
Hey Cowboy fans, I'm Nick Eatman along with Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer, and let's get right to it. It's been one of those weeks where you probably want to get back on the field as quickly as you can. Obviously, the Denver loss was not one that you any of us really expected. Is this one of those weeks where you're like, hey, let's make sure to have a good week of practice, but the Sunday can't get here fast enough?
No question. I mean, obviously that was a disappointing game for us. Hats off to the Denver Broncos and Coach Fangio. They did a great job starting on their defensive side of the ball, really doing some things that made it difficult for us to have success and have production on the offensive side. And then offensively, Teddy Bridgewater and company over there did a good job of not only throwing the football around, but running the football, and you have to give them credit. But at the end of the day, we've got to play better. We've got to execute better. We've got to fly around better. It just wasn't the standard, I know, that Coach McCarthy, our coaching staff, and our players expect out of themselves.
Well, one loss, and now all of a sudden the word blueprint keeps coming out. Like maybe Denver found the blueprint to stop this offense. Dak and McCarthy both said, "I hope you guys play us that way because we'll adjust." Are you any concerns about that?
Well, this is a copycat league, as we all know, and certainly they'll look at the tape. And our offense has been very successful this year. Number one in yards. At the top of most categories. But certainly, as I said, you have to give Denver some credit, and I know people will give that tape a long, hard look when they're playing the Cowboys, and we have to give it a long, hard look, as Mike said right after the game. I don't believe in just throwing the tape in the trash. We got to learn from this. We got to, take notes on this and see what we could have done better, where we could have played better, where we could have strategized better, and I think that's what we'll do as a team. And I think we'll rebound, and I expect the leadership on this team, they'll step up, and I think we'll have a great day Sunday.
Trayvon Diggs, we talk about corners all the time. They need to have bad memories. When good plays or bad plays happen, they need to just block it out and move on. Where do you feel like he is with his bounce back? He's had a couple of rough games, including this last one. Do you think he'll be on track this week?
Absolutely. He's an uber competitor, too. I mean, that guy, obviously he had the interception streak, and, he's had some things that he's battling through, which is, to me, a great sign of a team when players are willing to go out there, even though they're not 100%. As these NFL seasons go, certainly a lot of teams have players that are having to work through some injuries and are able to play through them, and my hat's off to those players. I mean, they could easily say, hey, I'm just not 100% and can't go. But that's not the football character or the makeup of this team. And certainly, he's worked through a few things, but I'm sure he's going to rebound just like the rest of the players who don't necessarily feel like they played to their standard, that they'll bounce back and play at a high level.
Stephen, we know how busy you are. We appreciate you stopping by. That's Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer.
Special thanks to Nationwide, and you can catch the entire interview with Stephen Jones on DallasCowboys.com. When we come back here on Special Edition, just how high-flying are Matt Ryan and the Falcons offense?
This segment was brought to you by the Texas Lottery. This segment is brought to you by Ford. Built for Texas, built for you.
Well, I think, one, I have great memories for there, and I always will. And I think a lot of the really cool and things that we accomplished there, and there were a lot of them, versus how it ended. And I think that's an important declaration. I'll certainly be forever grateful to Arthur to give me the opportunity there, and to all the players I had the privilege to coach. But You guys saw the performance yesterday, so there is no time to take a stroll down memory lane. Like, we got some to fix. So like, I'll be right where my feet are, right where I'm supposed to be, going after it as hard as we can, worrying about the jerseys that I coach now, and we'll throw a hell of a week.
So there's a very adamant Dan Quinn about, yes, there are things to fix, but he also was a part of the Atlanta Falcons organization as the head coach for 6 seasons. The Cowboys have won their last 2 matchups against the Falcons. Each of those, Dan Quinn was the head coach. So let's talk about the team that he is facing this time around. It is Matt Ryan and the Falcons. And we'll start with Matty Ice, the quarterback, former MVP, led his team to the Super Bowl, of course, with Dan Quinn as the head coach. But is he the same Matt Ryan that he was early in his career?
I think that's hard to answer him about, but he is effective. Whether he's the same Matty Ice or not, I'm not sure. He might be lukewarm right about now, but he still has weapons around him. He's still efficient. These guys are 3-1 over their last 4 games. He's throwing them with 70% completion rate. So these guys are taking care of business. They're taking care of the ball, and again, they're always dangerous as long as he's back there at quarterback position.
Yeah, this may not be the Matt Ryan of old, the MVP Matt Ryan, but this defense, they can't sleep on this guy because this offense is riddled with mismatch nightmares. You got Kyle Pitts at the tight end. You got Cordero Patterson on the outside, who's Mr. Do Everything for this team. So they cannot sleep on this guy and his defensive line. They got to make things hard for Matt Ryan out there coming this Sunday, or we could be in touch for another shootout, and I don't think that the Cowboys want any parts of that.
The only thing that's missing is they don't have the big play weapons that he had in the past. Now he's more precise in what he does. He gets the ball out a little bit quicker, and his pass percentage is up high, so he knows what he's doing a little bit better.
Yeah, no Julio Jones in the fold, and also no Calvin Ridley for the moment. Matt Ryan, since week 3, has completed 70% of his passes. He's one of just 2 quarterbacks in the NFL to do that, the other one being Kyler Murray. But one of the weapons he does have to talk about is Cordero Patterson on the offensive side, and that's not just a wide receiver, though he does play wide receiver. He also lines up as the tailback. So, Barry, what does his versatility do to challenge this Cowboys defense?
This guy's like a Swiss Army knife. He's Mr. Do Everything for this Atlanta Falcons offense. This guy has the strength to line up and run between the tackles, but also if you want to blitz and kind of shut down that run, they can split him on the outside and match him up against a linebacker or a safety, and he'll route you up and have success that way. So this defense has got to know before every snap where number 84 is.
Oh, man, he's just nice. I have nothing more to add to that. He's a good player. He's a solid player, and he's been doing it every way he's been.
Yeah, he's a matchup nightmare. The biggest problem that he presents is the personnel. You come out there and he's sitting in the backfield. You come out in the base defense, and all of a sudden he widens out. And like Barry said, you got Curse for trying to guard him, or you got one of our linebackers. It's going to be very interesting to see what Dan Quinn does to combat what he does.
And Patterson's not the only weapon that he has to worry about either on the offensive side. How about Kyle Pitts, rookie out of Florida? He plays tight end, but man, he is a unicorn at that position. Nate, what makes Kyle Pitts so special?
He's big. He's just a nightmare to match up with. Look at him right there. That's lean, mean, and can get down the field.
Oh, man, this guy is once again another mismatch nightmare for this Atlanta Falcons team. If you put him on a linebacker, he's going to outrun him. You put him on a corner or a safety, he's going to use his size and strength to out-physical those guys. And I know Dan Quinn loves to play man coverage. We've been a man defense so far this season, but they may want to sprinkle in a little bit of zone when dealing with these 2 mismatch nightmares, or it could be a long day.
This dude is a physical specimen. He's figuring out how things work here in the NFL, and worse than that, Matty Ice is figuring out how to get him the ball.
Yeah, definitely so. He's had 3 games already this season of over 100 yards receiving. Now, what about the defensive side? Defensively, I don't know if they scare you as much as the Atlanta offense does. Does this provide an opportunity, Isaiah, for the Cowboys offense to get back on track?
Yeah, I want to boast about how much of advantage we have over these guys. But coming off of last week, I'm going to kind of pull the brakes on that one. But these guys don't have the edge rushers that they once had. These guys don't have the safeties like they once had. So we match up well against these guys personnel-wise. We should have the advantage.
Yeah, without a doubt, I think we can rebound as an offense. I see Dak regaining that connection he had with those wide receivers. I don't see us getting dominated in a time of possession like we did last week, or being as bad on 3rd down as we were last week. So I see these guys getting back into motion as an offense, getting that momentum going, and doing what they do best, and that's score points.
On the first level, they got Grady Jarrett. On the second level, they got Deion Jones. And that's about it. If we can just make sure we'll be man up, man to man, I think our skill position players can handle the rest.
And I have a feeling that coming back from break, we're going to see some more of those matchups and some more of those names sprinkled in, because you guys have outlined who you think the matchups will decide the difference between a win and a loss. Jalen Kearse may be a crucial part of those matchups when we return.
This segment was brought to you by Ford. Built for Texas, built for you. This segment is brought to you by AT&T.
A couple of the buzzwords surrounding the Week 9 loss to the Broncos were being out-physicaled. Well, the Cowboys cannot afford for that to happen this week against the Atlanta Falcons, a noon kickoff Central Time on Fox. And gentlemen, you have matchups that you are keeping an eye on. Barry, we'll start with you because I like yours this week. I like what you got going on.
The matchup I got going on is Cordero Patterson. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Cordero Patterson versus the whole defense, because this guy lines up everywhere, whether it's running back in between the tackles, line him up as slot, line him up on the outside receiver. Wherever this guy can be at, you got to know where he's at because he's a threat to score the ball. This guy is a natural athlete, and he could do it all. So Dallas defense, make sure you know where number 84 is at all times because he can hurt you.
Patterson currently third in the NFL in terms of total yards this season, and he is up there with guys like Derrick Henry as a part of that conversation. Now, Isaiah, I like yours as well because we talked about it in the last segment. These linebackers and safeties are going to have a tough time covering Kyle Pitts.
Absolutely. And while everybody's paying attention to Mr. Patterson over there, they have to keep an eye on number 8, and that is Mr. Pitts. Okay, this dude is a first-round pick for a reason, and he is showing you every bit of his athleticism. Curse has to bring out some of his savvy vet moves to try to slow this guy down because if they allow him to get on his toes, he will take full advantage of him because he's shifty, he's large, and he has a huge catch radius.
He was drafted with the 4th overall pick in April's NFL draft. That's the highest selection ever used on a tight end. Kyle Pitts can do a lot more than just be a tight end, but he's a fantastic football player all the way across. Nate, what you got for your matchup?
You know what? Simple. The Cowboys versus the Cowboys. I'm talking about offensively. Everything is predicated on what this offense does. Dak was a little shaky. The offensive line was a little shaky. They have Grady Jackson up front. That's their defensive lineman. He's Mr. Everything for them. They have Deion Jones as their linebacker, but he needs to be moving around. But if you can put him in one spot and dictate where he's coming from, you can just line up and mow these guys over. The best they've had versus their rush game is against the Jets, not a very good team. The worst they've had rushing is against Carolina. They gave up 203 yards. So somewhere in there, they sit. Here's Zeke. Here's Pollard. Here's a big day for the Dallas Cowboys. Our receivers, they have nobody that can cover. Our tight end can eat up the middle. The Cowboys versus the Cowboys, they should have a great day. Believe me, stand back when I say this is the pumpkin spice.
Nate brought the pumpkin spice. We talked about the sprinkle. He brought the whole thing, the whole container. How about that from Nate Newton? You cannot beat yourselves. You cannot make those mistakes. Good football teams don't do that multiple weeks in a row, and the Cowboys will look to avoid that this week. When we come back, though, here on Special Edition, we preview the keys to the game. How do the Cowboys avoid beating themselves here in Week 10?
This segment was brought to you by AT&T. Special edition presented by AT&T was brought to you by Ford. Built for Texas, built for you. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. AT&T. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.
The Cowboys entering Week 10 of the NFL season still hold a firm grasp on first place in the NFC East at 6-2. But gentlemen, as the Falcons come to AT&T Stadium this week, how do they get win number 7? We'll start with you, Nate Newton.
Run the ball. Take advantage of it. They've given up 123-plus yards a game. Take advantage of it. Get the rhythm.
Win third down. I believe that on offense we have to convert over 50% of our third downs, and on defense we have to keep them under 50%.
Defensive line, you got to show up. We got bullied last week against a team that was missing 3 offensive line starters. So we got to show up there, make life hard for Matt Ryan. If we do that, we should be all right.
Basically what you guys were saying was all 3 units need to step up and have a bounce-back game heading into Week 10. It's the 28th all-time meeting between the Cowboys and the Falcons, noon kickoff Central Time on Fox. For Isaiah, Barry, and Nate, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the Star. We'll see you next week on Special Edition.